today I just want to kind of talk about Whatnot. Now, yesterday I was live for about 6 hours and we were projected to make anywhere between like £850 and £950. Can you guess what we actually made in 6 hours? Yeah, £96. You can have bad days on Whatnot, you really can, and that is understandable, but something I've noticed over the last 2 weeks is it's been going very, very downhill quickly on Whatnot. Now, when it comes to obviously the buyer base, it seems to be drying up. The seller base seems to be getting very, very oversaturated. And it just seems like the space is just becoming this cesspit of just random sellers, like people selling like absolute crap, and then buyers getting converted into sellers after like a week. It's almost like as soon as someone basically posts a photo on Instagram of Pokemon cards that they've just bought or whatever, you've got like a Whatnot employee jumping on them being like, oh, do you want to sell on Whatnot? Do you want to sell on Whatnot? Do you want to sell on Whatnot? Now, the platform's just going to implode on itself with the way that it's sort of going. I'm noticing it. I mean, I've been on a platform for 2 years. I've been streaming on Whatnot on and off for 2 years. I remember like 2 years ago when I started streaming on Whatnot, and I've been streaming on Whatnot like for 2 years on and off, and I used to love it. It was like 3 months or so after it just got released in the UK, and it was the best place ever. Like, you'd jump on, you'd have fun, you'd have so many people in the streams, and you'd have so many buyers. Like, people would just be getting involved. It would be so good. And then I noticed in a year, like, it just slowly going downhill. Like, it just went like that. And I was noticing a lot of the buyers who were like big spenders on my streams disappearing. And then all of a sudden you would see them streaming. And that's fine. I'm not saying, you know, people shouldn't be allowed to do that. And it shouldn't be gatekept, obviously. But at the same time, I feel like there's a big issue then. Because obviously you are taking away a lot of buyers that obviously you're trying to pump into the ecosystem money, and then you're turning them into sellers, and then they're obviously, who are they bringing over? Do you know what I mean? A lot of these people that they're bringing in as sellers, they haven't got, you know, people who are watching them on any platform, whether it be Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, whatever. They're just sellers. They're just people that have just basically got some Pokemon cards, and obviously Whatnot have just messaged them and said, look, do you want to sell? Do you want to sell? They're not bringing anyone to the platform. What they're doing is they're obviously selling on the platform and taking away from the buyer base. Which, again, like, you know, I'm not saying there should be any gatekeeping. I'm just stating the fact in the sense of, like, everyone that's on there, obviously we're trying to get a piece of real estate. We're trying to get a piece of, like, the buyer real estate. But when you start, obviously, turning all these buyers into sellers, where is that buyer real estate then coming into play? And it's sort of not. We haven't really got much of a buyer real estate right now. Obviously, some of the top streamers even struggle as well. I've noticed, you know, when certain top streamers are streaming to like maybe 100, 200 viewers, even then the numbers that they need for certain cards, they're just not hitting. And that sometimes isn't down to the seller. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's just the buyers just aren't there to want to actually buy the product. And it's kind of one of those things then where it'll only reach a certain price then. And I'm not saying people should be overbidding and overpaying for things. And that happens, and that's another thing. Again, it's like clout as well. Like, the platform's just becoming this big mess of just clout as well. Like, you know, if you're a clout streamer or you're a popular streamer, everyone just wants to basically kiss ass a little bit. And, you know, that's the thing then. Everyone's going in just to kiss ass, and they're just throwing money then left, right, and centre. So it's this weird cesspit of like, I want to be noticed by this streamer. I want to be noticed by this streamer. Oh, this streamer's putting like, you know, certain things up. Nah, I don't want to, you know, don't want to buy in for this one because obviously they haven't got like 200 views or whatever. And then obviously then they're like, oh, no, now I'm going to go on my stream and start selling the same things that I've just bought off this streamer, and then losing money or trying to do the same thing. And it's rinse and repeat. And it just has gotten to a point where there are so many things that you could talk about with Whatnot, whether it be the scams, like that alone is just like one of the biggest things. And then as a seller on the platform, if I say, oh yeah, sell on Whatnot, I'm associated then with all these scammers. I am in that association then of said scammers that are on the platform. Oh yeah, that platform, I've seen loads of people get scammed on there, or whatever it might be, or you're a scammer because you're, you know, doing a wheel, or you're doing this. And it's a lot of things then that are just getting thrown at you just for being associated with Whatnot. And that is what they've created. That is the ecosystem that Whatnot has created. And it's not a good ecosystem to be around. Now, personally, I'm praying that, like, you know, there's a company or one of the streaming platforms comes to the UK, who can actually have a bit more integrity, who has a lot more quality streamers that I might be able to go over to. I've got no allegiance to Whatnot whatsoever. The only reason I stream on Whatnot is because, one, I've got a lot of viewers that have watched me for so long, and obviously it's the easiest place for them to watch me. Two, it's just ease of use as well. I don't really need to set up a shop online, which is a lot easier. I can just kind of go on there. I can just put the stuff in the buy it now, and then it's as easy as that, to be honest. So ease of use for me is probably one of the biggest things. Not because I'm lazy. I mean, I'm a little bit lazy, but it's more so it's just something I'm used to. I am just used to it. But obviously, if another platform comes over, like Fanatics or eBay or something like that, and then they were to say, look, we'd have you as a streamer, or there's an application process that you can go through, you know what I mean? And it's kind of more rigorous, and it's a lot more, it's a lot more intense. I'd much rather kind of do that, to be honest, and then obviously try and move as many of the viewers that normally watch me over onto that platform. Because at the end of the day, I mean, Whatnot is becoming like a mess, and being associated as a Whatnot streamer isn't really that fun, to be honest. It really isn't. Now with this video, it's kind of just off the cuff. I'm packing up orders right now. I'm kind of just like nearly finished with them. And I just wanted to kind of get this off my chest. Now, obviously yesterday I was streaming for like 6 hours, and to stream 6 hours and only make £96 is honestly like demoralizing. And it really does take a knock to your sort of like confidence when it comes to wanting to stream and kind of thinking, is it worth it, or what happens if it is like this a lot longer? Now, bear in mind, I'm someone who probably does about, anywhere in sales, about 17,000 per month, and that's just straight transparency. I don't mind saying that. Now, obviously, if I'm doing £96 in 6 hours and I can only stream 3 days a week, do you know what I mean? You're probably looking then like £270 a week, and then that completely just cuts any margins, cuts any, just cuts any way of being able to become obviously a seller and a profitable business. So that's something that obviously is something you got to obviously be careful about as well. Don't ever put your eggs in one basket, obviously. Now for me personally, I can sell on eBay and stuff like that, and I've got other avenues that I could sell on. It's fine. But obviously when you're buying things for stream and you're doing as well as what I was doing or I am doing sort of thing, it's kind of hard then, because you kind of think to yourself, okay, well then what needs to be done then? Because obviously I know you've got to change things up, but at the same time, then it starts to make you think maybe it's the platform. And it definitely is. It definitely is the platform. Obviously I've spoken to a lot of people on the platform, ones that are sellers, people that are buyers and watchers as well. And they're all saying the same thing. They're all saying, yeah, it's very slow, it's very quiet, it's very this, whatever. And it's just, it gets to a point where you start to think to yourself, okay, well then, who can we point the finger at, or who can we obviously say, like, why is this happening? And it's Whatnot. At the end of the day, like, Whatnot's business practices and the decisions that they're making and what they're doing just isn't helping mid-tier streamers, low-tier streamers, you name it. And even some of the high-tier streamers, like I mentioned before. And it's kind of one of those things where the more it goes on, it's going to implode. It's going to implode on itself, and it's just not going to be a pretty place to stream on. And yes, obviously the streaming landscape is changing over time. There's going to be a lot more people that are going to be, selling. And there will be people that will obviously start moving more onto live platforms to buy. But the more you start turning these buyers into sellers, the worse it's going to get. Now, I just thought I'd throw this out there. Obviously, guys, I kind of want to hear your opinions as well on this sort of thing, what you think of Whatnot. Obviously, sort of like whether you're noticing the slowdown and the decrease of buyers on Whatnot as well. And like I said, I don't know if I said this in this video or the one that I've probably had to delete, but yes, people aren't always made of money, but at the same time, that's why you need to bring in more buyers, because say like, one buyer is bought too much and he can't buy, it gives space then for another buyer to come in and do whatever, and that doesn't seem to be the case. It seems to be like sometimes you're kind of reliant on, certain regulars that might buy in or whatever, and to me that doesn't feel good. That really doesn't feel that good. I don't want to have, like 5 people carrying a stream every week and basically having to constantly buy. just because they kind of want to support, but they also feel bad because it is quiet. I really don't want that. I want to obviously have new buyers in. I want to make new connections, but I also, you know, kind of want them to be able to not feel obliged to buy in either, and also, yeah, just be able to enjoy the streams and, you know, watch it from the side maybe of like someone else getting in and watching someone else get lucky or unlucky or whatever. But yeah, I digress, guys. I mean, I'm kind of just sort of rambling on a little bit, so we'll end the video here. I do appreciate, obviously, if you've watched this whole video and sort of listened to my thoughts on stuff like this. I do have a lot of thoughts when it comes to certain opinions on things that happen in the hobby. Whether I end up recording them and post about it, it's another story, but yeah, this one I kind of did need to mention because yesterday was a very tough day to kind of get through, and obviously even like Monday was a tough day as well. And last week as well wasn't even, you know, that great. So it's kind of been building up, and yesterday was kind of the breaking point for me. So let me know in the comments what you guys think, and I'll see you.